I'm sure there are a lot of folks in this room that were brought up with adages from their parents, like my mom used to always say, always do your best. Uh, be careful who your friends are because you're judged by the company you keep. And the dreaded, you only get one chance to give someone a first impression. I'm sure everybody's heard that from their folks, and it is very important. And after practicing medicine for 40 years, it is important because when people come in to see you, they don't need to think that you're some kind of a nut that's taking care of them. It makes them feel comfortable. It helps them to relax and it helps to develop the relationship that you need with them. So about 30 years ago, I was working in Philadelphia and I developed a sore on the side of my nose, like right where my glasses would hit. And it was around for about 6 weeks, 8 weeks. And it was one of those things that the American Cancer Society is yelling about all the time. You know, bleeding, changing your diet, changing your weight, a sore that won't heal. And this isn't going to be one of those stories. I didn't develop a tumor, so don't worry about that. But I needed to get it taken care of. So there's a dermatologist that was about a block away from my office, and it was convenient. That's not a good way to pick your healthcare provider, by the way. But anyway, so I went there, walked in, and I was the only person in the waiting room, and it was dingy. It was dark, the furniture was old, tattered, the magazines were way out of date, the wastebasket was overflowing with used cups and so forth. It needed a dust job, it was dirty. So I finally get to the back, and the dermatologist comes in, relatively young man, and he starts off by saying, "What's your problem?" Just like that. And I said, "Well, I got this thing on my nose that hasn't healed in almost 2 months, and I want to be sure it's not a skin cancer." He says, "Oh, so you're making skin disease diagnoses now?" I said, "No, I'm just trying to get it taken care of." He said, "Okay, do I get a chance to look at it, or do I use my imagination?" All right, fine. So I take the glasses off, and he goes, And the next thing I know, bam, I get hit in the side of my nose with a needle and a dose of local anesthetic. Now, anybody who's ever had local for a biopsy or to have stitches fixed knows what I'm talking about. The needle is painful, but the anesthetic is like injecting liquid fire. So my right eye starts to tear. And I have a pretty high pain threshold, but it was just because of the stimulation. And he looks at me and says, "So you're gonna cry now?" And you know, I was starting to get a little pissed off with this guy, just because of his crummy personality and his condescending nature. And I'm not an angry, belligerent, aggressive guy. But I said, "You know what, pal? Why don't you and I go behind this dump that you call an office, and we're going to see who's going to start crying." And I meant it. And he goes, "Whoa, you don't have to be nasty and threaten me." I said, "Buddy, I wouldn't threaten a colleague. Think of it as an invitation." Well, the complexion of the room changed remarkably. He was a classic bully. And he struck me as the kind of guy that probably got the hell beat out of him on a regular basis for his lunch money when he was younger. And now he's in his element, and he's going to do whatever he wants to whoever comes in there. So he takes the biopsy, says, "I'll call you in about 3 or 4 days with the results." Okay, fine. I get busy. He doesn't call. 10 days later, I figure, hey, I better find out what's going on. So I call, and he says, "Oh, yeah, I was just going to call you. It was," and I don't remember what the heck it is, because remember, I'm not supposed to do skin disease diagnoses, okay? So I didn't remember, but it was benign, so who the hell cares? When I would have patients on rare occasions that I'd have to refer to a dermatologist, they'd say, "How about this guy right up the street? He's pretty close." And again, I have to thank my mom, because one of the other things she told me is, if you can't say anything nice about anybody, don't say anything at all. And I didn't. I sent them all over the city of Philadelphia, but I wouldn't send them up the block. Thank you very much.